How's it going, everyone? It is me, the Lone Vault Wanderer, here with a follow-up video to one I did the other day about Shadow of War's microtransaction system. In that video, I said that I'm generally okay with microtransactions in video games, so long as they're not pay to win, wherein someone is actually disadvantaged online in a multiplayer game because other people are able to, with real-world money, buy better items and better equipment to perform better competitively in that online environment. Well, it's been confirmed today by Eurogamer that Shadow of War will actually have an online multiplayer component. It will actually have two modes, from which the armies that you use in those modes are seemingly based on the army you built up in the single player. And you'll remember in that last video I talked about, and I'll bring up the relevant screenshot from the VG247 article, it's also linked in the description below. I talked about some of the items and chests that you could purchase in Shadow of War, either using Miriam, which is obtained through normal gameplay, or by using gold, which itself is purchasable via real-world money. And some of those items include loot chests, which contain gear, including weapons and armor of varying rarity, and also war chests, which provide orc followers of varying rarity to help forge a strong army. Now again, in my last video, there was no multiplayer online mode confirmed at that stage, so I'm like, alright, well, at the very least, you can only purchase better orcs potentially, because they're chests, so I'm assuming it's randomly generated, but you can potentially purchase better orcs, weapons, and armor to perform better and make the game easier for your single player experience. But with these new modes confirmed by Eurogamer, and I'll link their article in the description below, if it's the case that the weapons, armor, and orc followers that you can potentially purchase in the single player game seep over into those multiplayer modes, it seems like Shadow of War has a pay-to-win mechanic, which goes against the default position that I mentioned in my last video. So let's talk about what these modes actually entail, and I guess the request that I have for Warner Bros. With Shadow of War coming out later this year. So Eurogamer states the following: Middle-earth Shadow of War players will have two ways to invade other people's Mordors when the game launches this year. The first of these is a new mission type called Social Conquest. The other sees the return of vendettas from Shadow of Mordor with one or two tweaks. In Social Conquest, players can set up a captured fortress however they choose, installing an overlord and a series of captains from their existing follower base. And that's key there, from their existing follower base, which is why I'm saying that the armies you build up in your single player transfer or seep over into the multiplayer modes. But anyways, I'll continue. They will also be able to purchase upgrades for their defending army before sharing their fortress online. And there you go. After that, players will be free to assault the fortress using their own army, loading onto the defending player's instance of Mordor and launching an attack. There are two different ways to take on a fortress in Social Conquest. Friendly Conquest allows players to mount an assault without risk to their followers. In Ranked Mode, players will earn a better assault rating with each successful conquest, with that rating dropping in the event of a failed attempt. Vitally, Ranked Mode is also different in that the attacking player's followers are at risk. If a captain dies during an assault, it's dead for real. Happily, the rewards for successfully attacking a base are plentiful. Capturing a fortress will reward the player with a conquest loot chest and some spoils of war, points that are accumulated in order to earn spoils of war chests. These chests contain followers and other goodies, allowing players to get stronger before returning to Mordor from whence they came. And then talking about the Vendettas mode, if you played Shadow of Mordor, you may remember these were opportunities to avenge the death of one of your friends by summoning the orc that killed them and fighting to the death. And then the article goes on to describe that mode even more, but it's really the Social Conquest mode that's relevant for this discussion about microtransactions and pay to win. Alrighty, so let's break this down here. You have a microtransaction system here where you can buy chests that give you orc followers, weapons, and armor. Also remember as well, and I'll put up the screenshot on the screen right now, you can bypass the Nemesis domination system by simply purchasing orc followers outright for your army. Because you can do that and buy those items with real-world money, and those items and those orc followers of varying rarity, which can be very good and very bad depending upon what you get, how lucky you are when you open those chests. Those orcs and the weapons and the armor can all be applied to your army and to your character in the Social Conquest multiplayer mode, which means that it is technically pay to win. Now, it is optional. I know that Monolith has said that any item, any orc follower, whatever it is, can be obtained through normal gameplay, and that's fine. but just because it's optional, it doesn't mean it's not pay to win. You can still have both. You know, it's not mutually exclusive. You can have a game which is pay to win and has certain items or weapons locked behind a paywall. So that's a very severe instance of pay to win, where in some aspects it's not technically optional. But you can have a game that is pay to win because you can buy better weapons, better armor, better items, etc., but still have those obtainable via normal gameplay. So it's optional, but it's still technically pay to win. So they are two different instances here, but it seems like Shadow of War falls to the latter one, where it is optional, yes, but it is still pay to win, because you can use real world money to buy better orcs, to build up a stronger army, just as that article said, and also better gear, weapons, and armor for your character, which you're going to be using in the Social Conquest Online mode. So as far as I can see, and feel free to correct me if you believe I'm wrong here, but as far as I can see, this very much seems to be a pay-to-win system. And again, that goes against my go-to default position that I mentioned in my last video, where I generally prefer games to simply have cosmetic microtransactions such as Overwatch. So at this point in the video, I'm not going to get angry or anything like that. That's stupid. I will say this, none of these microtransaction systems are going to affect me. I have disposable income, I have a full-time job. It's not like I'm going to get angry because I'm personally disadvantaged by this system. But the request that I'm about to put out to Warner Brothers is for those gamers that don't have disposable income. In my position as a YouTuber, I have come across so many different of my subs and my viewers that say to me, hey Lone, I'd love to get this game, I'd love to play this, I'd love to do that, but I don't have the money to do so. There are so many gamers out there, in particular young gamers, that simply don't have that disposable income and that are operating off of doing chores around the house or getting money from their parents, etc. So sometimes, and I make this mistake, I really do make this mistake a lot, so I'm not all innocent here. Sometimes when I'm formulating views about the games industry, I need to think of people other than myself. Microtransactions might not affect me because I can spend the money, but they might affect people that don't have the money, that have taken the time to collect together $60, and that's all they have to spend on a game for a particular month or maybe several months for a long period, and that's it, they can't spend any more. And yes, that would apply to microtransactions. And that's why I'm going to request now, and no one's going to see this, so, I'm just doing it for the purposes of the video, but I would kindly request WB to reconsider this kind of pay-to-win microtransaction model. Because when you have, especially gamers, again, not myself, that might not have a lot of disposable income, that can only really spend the $60 to get the game brand new at launch, they don't have the money to buy gold that in turn can buy these different chests or items or orc followers. So when it comes to the online competitive multiplayer, especially if it's not balanced right, they will likely be seriously disadvantaged when trying to play that mode. And they will just be pushed and pushed and pushed to spend money in the game where they probably don't have the money to begin with. I know people at this age are going to say, yes, it's optional, and yes, you can still play the game normally. But you know what's going to happen when it comes to the first couple of weeks of the game's launch? Some people with money are just going to spend a ton to get a bunch of chests and to build the best army possible to a stage where no one else is going to be able to compete. And no one else is going to want to play in that online mode. And I fear that that's going to affect the enjoyment of people that do legitimately and genuinely want to play and engage in that online mode. Maybe they really enjoy it. Maybe they want to, test it out to see how it goes. But that enjoyment might not be there if they're getting constantly demolished by armies that are built up by orcs that were really quickly and really easily obtained via the purchase of gold using real world money. And this kind of goes to the reason why, on a personal level, I'm not really into pay to win. This is also why I don't really play mobile games. It can create an unfair environment for people that don't have disposable income for those microtransactions and for those items that simply just want to play the game. If this is not balanced right, the leaderboards are likely going to be consisted of people that have the money to build a really good army in the game. The players that are going to win most games in the online modes are likely going to be those people that have more money to spend on better equipment, better items, and better orc followers. And that's the fear I have. So while I was tentative on those features being included in the single player game, but still was like, you know what, there's a chance this could work. When it comes to the online multiplayer competitive environment, it's kind of crossed that line where there's more of a chance that people would be severely disadvantaged and unfairly treated by this. So I hope that WB does look at all the people that are talking about this microtransaction system now and say, you know what, we're going to revert back, or we're just going to purely allow you to buy cosmetic items to make your orc army look cool, to make Talion look really cool when you play the game, but not allow you to buy items or orc followers that fundamentally affect how good of a player you are in those online modes. But anyways, that's just one man's thoughts. I'd love to get your thoughts about this, guys, in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.